Good morning, everyone. It's Monday, September 21st. From the San Antonio Express News, my name is Luis Vasquez, and this is your Express Briefing. All of the stories you need to know to start your day. Expect cloudy, rainy weather with a high of 76 in San Antonio today. In the Gulf, Tropical Storm Beta is threatening to bring more rain to a part of the country that has already been drenched and battered during this year's unusually busy hurricane season. The League of Women Voters of the San Antonio area are hosting a drive-up voter registration event at the Pearl Tuesday evening. If you haven't registered to vote, we have what you need to know about the event at the link in this episode's description. Some 5A and 6A high schools begin the 2020 football season this week. We have you covered with our preseason rankings and players to watch. Classes 4A and below have been playing for 4 weeks. Check out the scores from this weekend's games at expressnews.com. And now let's move on to our top stories for the day. The very people risking their lives to defend the nation are among those most likely to have their ballots left uncounted in the presidential election in November. When nearly 1 million absentee ballots are sent to military and overseas Americans worldwide by Saturday, kicking off voting for the 2020 election, history shows many will never return in time, and a greater percentage will be rejected compared to the rest of the population. In 2018, nearly half of all ballots sent out to military and overseas voters who requested them were never returned. And of those that were returned, nearly 6% were rejected by election officials. Nationwide, about 1% of absentee ballots are rejected among the civilian population. Jeremy Wallace takes a closer look at the issue in his latest article. 2 years ago, American Airlines added 2 daily flights out of the small city of Del Rio. The border community of 3,600 residents, 153 miles from San Antonio, was to become one of the smallest cities in the global network of American Airlines, the world's largest air carrier. How did Del Rio attract American? Cash, a pledge of about $2.9 million to be paid over 2 years, starting when the service began in November 2018. American would get part of the money anytime it couldn't fill more than 80% of the 44 seats on the 2 daily commuter jets to Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport. The money is now gone and the air service appears doomed. Randy Diamond explains what it means for Del Rio's economy and the air travel industry. The impassioned battle over the moving of the massive but crumbling Alamo Cenotaph is reaching a climax this week that could give new life to the $450 million Alamo overhaul project or kill it. The Texas Historical Commission is expected to vote Tuesday on a permit to move the 80-year-old monument a few hundred feet south of its present location. It's a debate that has raged for years now. Scott Huddleston offers a refresher on what's happened so far and what's at stake this week. For 20-year-old Ruben Sanchez, the return to school for face-to-face learning last week was more than a return to normalcy. It was a chance to reclaim a sense of belonging that he had missed since school shut down in March. Sanchez is one of 14 students welcomed back to the Burleson School for Innovation and Education on Tuesday after weeks of distance learning. The school provides special education students who graduated high school in the Edgewood Independent School District with training for future employment and independence. Like every school, it was forced to move all learning online in the spring to fight the spread of the coronavirus. So far, about half of its students are back in classroom. Andres Picon explores the adjustments the school has made to reopen in the era of COVID-19. With the pandemic, there are new questions about how the 2020 elections will work. Who qualifies for mail-in ballots if that's what you want to do? Is not wanting to catch COVID-19 a legitimate reason to vote by mail instead of in person? We have answers to your questions at the link in this episode's description. To keep our readers up to date on the path of COVID-19, the Express News has built a dashboard of interactive graphics showing the spread of the virus in the San Antonio area, in Texas as a whole, and across the United States. We've also created an interactive map of San Antonio for COVID-19 testing sites that don't require a doctor's referral. You can find a link to the dashboard and the interactive map in this episode's description. Next up are your need-to-know headlines. You can find all of these headlines and more inside your Express News subscription. The city reported a backlog of 2,473 COVID-19 cases on Sunday, bringing Bexar County's total since the start of the pandemic to 53,341, according to the Metropolitan Health District's daily coronavirus update. Earlier this month, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention ordered a nationwide pause on evictions through the end of the year if tenants met certain criteria and are struggling to pay rent. We have what we know so far and how you can protect yourself from eviction at the link in this episode's description. Police found what appears to be human skeletal remains on Sunday morning in western Bexar County inside a burned car that had been reported stolen. On Saturday, the story of Kaylee Mandati, the beloved cheerleader whose death gripped the Trinity University community, was highlighted by 48 Hours on CBS. More than 4,500 Texas students and staff have tested positive for COVID-19 since the start of the school year, according to data released by the Texas Department of State Health Services and the Texas Education Agency. On Saturday, more than 100 San Antonians gathered to celebrate the life of Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg a day after her death from complications of metastatic pancreatic cancer. Suds Monkey Brewing Company has sued San Antonio's Brew Monkey Beer Company for trademark infringement, alleging the name is confusingly similar to the Dripping Springs Company's moniker. With the blitz of deal cutting over the funding of the Edgewood Aquifer Protection Program finally over, community leaders are realizing the future of the city's popular Greenway Trail system isn't nearly as secure. The Texas Supreme Court on Friday extended its emergency order restricting in-person court proceedings to prevent the spread of the novel coronavirus. It replaces a previous order that was set to expire October 1st. The Northeast Independent School District has bought a vacant Walmart next to MacArthur High School and will convert it into a center for a cybersecurity magnet program. It will include a 700-seat competition arena with a stage where robots can fight each other. A Leon Valley City Councilman who routinely has been a dissenter on council votes and a critic of the suburb's police and staff leadership now is at the center of a council attempt to strip him of his seat, the second such proceeding the city has held in just over a year. The election system is burdened by COVID-19 and doubts about the U.S. Postal Service, columnist Gilbert Garcia writes, adding, "Whatever method of voting you choose, vote as early as possible." The crisis of climate change raises profound questions about our responsibility to future generations, the Express News editorial board writes. Read the comparison between President Donald Trump's and Joe Biden's record on climate change at the link in this episode's description. This week in history, on September 26, 1960, for the first time, presidential candidates debated on TV, with candidates John F. Kennedy and Richard Nixon. An AP story reported, quote, "The rival presidential candidates clashed Monday night in unprecedented debate that left issues and positions unchanged, the goals for America in broad agreement, the methods for reaching them in dispute." You can also read Gilbert Garcia's column for more on the importance of presidential debates. With the coronavirus pandemic wreaking havoc on the economy and thousands of people out of work and unable to feed their families, some thoughtful San Antonians are opening up free mini pantries. Since April, nearly a dozen of the little pantries have been set up in different parts of the city. All are free. Registration is not required. These are not traditional pantries in brick and mortar buildings with board of directors and formal requests for donations, nor do they have nonprofit status. Read more about this grassroots movement at the link in the episode's description. An origami sculpture show makes its Texas debut at the San Antonio Botanical Garden. The exhibit features more than 20 metal sculptures artfully tucked into beds and just off pathways throughout the 38-acre garden, which reopened May 3rd. Each of the works began as all origami does, with a single piece of paper that is transformed into a thing of beauty. The Chop Stars from Houston and prolific author and San Antonio native Shea Serrano joined forces to give Selena's music a chopped and screwed remix. After years of annual Star Wars movies, now it's Star Trek's turn. Even lifelong Force fans are giving the new Trek shows a chance. Hundreds of visitors ventured into the maze at the Graff 7A Ranch's South Texas Maze Fall Weekend Kickoff. This is the 20th year that Ken and Lori Graff and their family have offered a huge range of seasonal events at their 5th-generation ranch and farm. And that's all for today. This was your Express Briefing for Monday, September 20th. My name is Luis Vasquez. Please consider becoming an Express News subscriber to get in-depth coverage on all the stories you heard today. Also, be sure to rate and review this podcast inside of your Apple Podcast app, as it really helps the show. Have a wonderful day, everyone.